Chelsea.
What's up?
Give us a walk around.
All right.
I'm sorry to make you get off your cooler there.
Yeah, but it's just our day off, you know?
Right.
That doesn't happen at FD normally. Yeah, so 2020 Ford Mustang, Spec 5D, RTR setup. So it's got all the RTR Aero, our Spec 5 flares. These are actually like a carbon Kevlar copy so that we can smash them a few times.
Nice.
It's really usable. Route shapes 455 cube, which is basically a Ford small block built out to NASCAR specs, but 100 cubes larger than what's allowed in NASCAR. Motor alone makes like 750 at the tire, and then we have like about 350 horsepower with the nitrous. And it's driven by TPS base, load base, and pretty much just drives like a huge motor. So it's really easy to drive. BC 3-ways, ZR series.
Before we go too far, I want to show people this is designed to be crashed. So explain the crash structure, explain the mentality behind this, because a lot of people don't understand or think about this part of the build.
We actually are lucky enough to have a motor that can sit really far back, so everything's pretty safe in that area. We boxed the front frame rails here, and it's meant to be crashed, right? So everything you look at is bolt-on. So this is obviously something that doesn't really move or flex ever, hopefully.
Right, not on
and
purpose.
then we bolt a really sturdy box on front that holds a couple brackets that will act as a bash bar in a collision. So if you notice, it's like soft, medium, hard, so we get a good crumple zone, kind of like a factory car.
Exactly.
And then we tie this front bulkhead into the strut towers. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to tie it back to the firewall for FD rules, but otherwise we would probably do that as well. But
for sure,
the Mustang out of the box is super strong, A-pillar hoop design and front frame rail design, so we just tag it literally for space constraints and giving us some sort of a crash zone there.
Nice. Chat about these brakes with me real quick, because I noticed they're very thin, but that's on purpose, right? We don't have any heat and drifting.
Yeah, so we use the brakes. I try not to ever, but it does happen. And like usually at the end of a run, the front rotors, you can touch them. They're not even hot.
Nice.
So we're running a drag rotor, which is really thin. And then a custom front steering setup, sway bar setup. That way it has as much adjustability as we need to.
Right.
Like I was saying, with the 3-ways are inverted too for strength. Carbon Kevlar doors, Lexan, and then inside just a super simple cockpit. Right now we have a trans tunnel off because we're going to service the trans here to make sure it's good for the weekend. Super simple cage. Everything's very clean and easy to work on. Everything is nut-serted, which basically is just like inserting a bolt, a female end of the bolt into the car so you can thread things in and out so you're not riveting or taking too much time.
And the transmission you use is not a sequential, right?
Nope. No, we run an Andrews 4-speed NASCAR box, which is a regular H pattern style.
Explain to us the reasoning behind that, because a lot of the teams seem to be going to sequential, but you know, is it worth it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I don't believe with our setup we need a sequential at all.
Okay.
For me, like personally, a 3-speed would be plenty. Extra shifting takes more time. It's more use on the drivetrain, and we're lucky enough to have a motor that just makes like electric torque.
I was gonna say, because that's probably why, because the drivetrain is beefy enough.
I make one shift at this track.
Really?
Yep, that's it.
That's
I leave
hilarious.
the line in 3rd. I shift to 4th, and I run the track in 4th.
That's pretty ridiculous.
And sometimes I'll drop to 3rd in the last turn chasing people, but it will still do it in 4th. I'm just trying to get that extra little bit of response.
Right.
You know?
So similar rear braking setup here, nice and thin.
That one gets pretty hot because of handbrake usage, but yeah, we run an inline handbrake, not a dual caliper setup, as you can see. Keeps some weight off of the car, as well as keeping the pedal feel really good. A lot of people run like stock style rotors, dual caliper, and like factory style calipers. They don't get necessarily knocked back with the pads or anything. Where with a wave rotor, drag rotor like this and everything, you get some pad knockback. So when you run like a dual caliper, it ends up making the handbrake not as responsive after you've used the foot brake and vice versa. So we run an inline, so it keeps it nice and tight.
Okay. So I think that's important to point out because, you know, when someone's asking me or you, I'm sure, on how to build a car, I recommend dual caliper. But if you have a fully engineered braking system, then an inline could be better for reasons that,
I run inline on everything.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah, I don't have a dual caliper on any of my cars.
Really? So I would differ on that. I hate the feeling. But
you don't really get the feeling either when you have most of your bias towards the front.
Sure. But on a street car like the TI, you gotta feel it some there. No? Do you not foot brake and handbrake at the same time?
I do, but I always handbrake first.
Okay, so you gotta make sure you do that.
Well, when would you ever foot brake before you handbrake?
If you're a new driver and you don't know what you're doing.
No, I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically we run inline setup. It saves about 15 pounds.
For sure.
Which is a lot, and it's really unnecessary.
Got some really trick suspension on back here, obviously.
Yeah.
Really nice blade style sway bar. Some really giant beefy billet suspension links. BCs, of course. I noticed you guys have a vent here. That's new for when these cars first came out, right?
Yeah, we run the vent there. We've been, trying to keep the temperature of the tire the best we can, and it helps just evacuate some heat from the wheel well in general.
Okay.
Not like an advantage type of thing,
Sure.
just more of a monitoring thing. Like when I go out there and do a run where I just melt the tires off, it stays a little bit more consistent, that aspect. But
is this little piece of aero new?
It's been on there for a couple of years now.
Oh, really?
It's more of a look thing, just to break up the rear section a little bit more.
Cool.
It's not really functional at all.
All right, let's look at the back real quick, and then we'll wrap, and I'll let you get back to doing nothing and sitting on that cooler.
Yeah, simple rear mount radiator setup. I use the term simple because it's small radiator, nothing huge. 7-gallon cell, and our nitrous setup here on a 15-pound bottle.
Okay.
So we can make 4 laps. You notice everywhere is littered with little fire suppression stuff.
7-gallon, that's pretty small. I guess you fill it every 2 laps, probably?
Yeah, we're servicing the car every 2 laps, new tires, new nitrous bottle, new fuel.
Okay.
We can do 4 on nitrous, but when you're doing that all anyway, the team's super fast and efficient. It's about 2 minutes to do 2 tires, fresh, fuel, and nitrous.
All right, so what's your favorite part about this car?
Driving it, obviously.
Favorite part, how about that? Obviously driving it. I know you've done a lot of development with it. Yeah,
we've done a lot of changes. Right now, I would say the rear suspension is probably my favorite part. We've been working at that to make a car that's easy to drive and yet fast enough to keep up with the fastest guys here.
Okay.
Because, having a car that's fast is easy.
Sure.
Having a car that's easy to drive, it's pretty easy. But having both is where it really gets difficult. And a lot of that in what we've been doing has just been tuning the rear suspension to balance it with the front, and just kind of making a car that's has a little bit bigger of a box to drive in.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, thanks for showing it to us.
Yeah,
best of luck this weekend. We'll be cheering you on.
Slide left for Denofa, right for Field, and there it is. Chelsea Denofa gets the win. He's going to the finals.